What up, guys? Your boy Quake, and Diddy is finally locked up. The diddler is gone. We are all safe. We can all unclench our you-know-whats. Because, man, he was running out here rampant as the Joker, threatening all kinds of things and bombing things, which we'll talk about a little bit later because it's been confirmed, that Kid Cudi's car actually was bombed, which is insane. And a lot of information has come out. And the feds have done their due diligence. This is diligent, insanely diligent work by the feds. After the raids, we knew it was a matter of time when Diddy would finally get locked up. So let's go over how he got locked up. Let's go over what the feds released in their documents. And then let's go over what to expect moving forward. What kind of time is he facing? How can he potentially get out of this? So on and so forth. Let's talk about first how he got locked up. Diddy was taken by the feds, and it was reported by TMZ exclusively on Monday night in NYC. This was on September 16th. This is what they initially reported. They said Diddy was just arrested and taken into federal custody in New York Monday night, TMZ has learned. Sources tell TMZ Homeland Security swooped into a Midtown hotel late Monday where Diddy was staying, and they arrested him. We have unconfirmed reports. The feds are searching his hotel room. We're told Diddy was taken to the federal building in Lower Manhattan. Then they updated the report that Monday night and said a law enforcement source tells TMZ Diddy's arrest was scheduled for Tuesday, but something happened that caused the feds to move in a day earlier. However, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams says federal agents took him in based on a sealed indictment filed by the Southern District of New York. Then they did another update just a couple hours before Diddy got busted. He was confidently strolling around NYC with his son, King Combs. He even stopped to greet some fans and take selfies. So he was scheduled. He actually showed up to New York City and willingly said, hey, you guys can lock me up. Like, I'm not running. I'm not fleeing. Take me in. They had scheduled for Tuesday. But, of course, the feds are never going to go on the scheduled time. They're always going to mess around with you and go in earlier. Always. It's not going to be later, but they'll go in earlier and get you just in case you decide to have second thoughts and flee. And Diddy is damn near a billionaire, so, of course, just you just get a private jet and dip out of here, and we'll never see him again. So, luckily, he turned himself in. The feds got him, and now he's officially locked up. This was blasted on Monday night. Tuesday is where we got the indictment documents. And the feds decided to talk about what they got in the raids, why they arrested him, so on and so forth. So let's go over those documents. It's about 14 pages. So I'm not going to go over every single detail because a lot of the stuff that you guys have heard, you guys already heard throughout multiple videos and just reports all over of the Cassie lawsuit, that alleged abuse and stuff like that. But I will go over a lot of the stuff. The documents say United States of America versus Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. PD, and a.k.a. Love. So they do mention every single one of his names just to clarify that, this is the Diddy we're talking about. The overview starts out saying the defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees' resources and influence of multifaceted business empires that led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, and other crimes: sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. In the second sentence, they say Sean Combs, a.k.a. all that stuff, the defendant operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles. So the fact that this is things that people accuse him of in New York and in California makes it a federal case. If this just happened in New York, if the accusations only happened in New York, this would be a state situation and not a federal situation because the feds is what covers everything in the United States. Continuing on, under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs Business. Corporate entities in the Combs Business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, engaged in persistent and persuasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. At times, Combs and others, acting at his discretion, made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same and using intimidation and violence. They're saying here that Diddy used his star power, which we've heard millions of times, to do all this stuff. Promised females or males careers in whatever they wanted to do, whether it was management, whether it was music, whatever it was. He promised them the careers, which a lot of the lawsuits say that. And a lot of people have heard the same thing from R. Kelly. You're going to notice a lot of this stuff. If you're not aware of R. Kelly's case, this is a lot of the same stuff that they got R. Kelly under. And where is R. Kelly right now? In prison, rotting away. So this is the exact same thing, just at a, of course, higher level because, R. Kelly isn't nearly as rich as Diddy and nearly as big as Diddy is. Continuing on, physical abuse by Sean Combs, the defendant, was reoccurrent and widely known. On numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, like striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. These assaults were at times witnessed by others and included one instance at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. So this is why it's a RICO, right? They're saying that, hey, he used the funds of his businesses to operate this whole thing of having these freak-off parties and paying off people. That if people saw things or if people wanted to report things, he would pay them. But the feds aren't just going to go after Diddy in this case. They are vehemently saying that they're going to go after the people that complied with him, from employees to security to staff members, whoever played a role in this and didn't come forward with this information are going down with Diddy, which I applaud the feds for, because a lot of these people were bribed and pretending like they never heard anything or saw anything because Diddy was just paying them and giving them, benefits to not report things to him. And the only reason they got that Cassie footage is from the house raid. Diddy is someone that you'll see as I read on, likes to keep all the stuff he's done. And that's usually typical of abusers, to have their evidence. They like that type of stuff. That's been a pattern all throughout history and time as human beings, of people that have been abusers, murderers, stuff like that. They like to keep what they do. I mean, have you ever heard stories of, people that murder, chop bodies, they keep the bodies with them still? They don't dispose of them. A lot of them that are psychopaths do that, and Diddy did the same thing. Continuing on, Sean Combs, the defendant, used Combs' business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors and other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. Look at that. High-ranking supervisors. Why all of a sudden a lot of these record label CEOs and managers are stepping down? I'm not trying to tie Kevin Lyles to anything, but he just stepped down from 300 Entertainment. There's been a lot of people in Atlantic, I think Records South stepped down, and a lot of different other, people that are in the music industry that are powerful. The feds are aware of this. Listen, the feds, I'm telling you guys, they do not go after people unless they got solid evidence. And there's going to be actually a person who used to work for the Southern District Feds in New York that says that, hey, based off the history of me working there, they are very diligent. They make sure they got everything on you before they go after you. Continuing on, the Combs enterprise from at least or in about 2008 through on or about the date of the filing of this indictment, Sean Diddy, the defendant, and others known and unknown, were members and associates of a criminal organization, the Combs Enterprise or the Enterprise. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other things and activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion, enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. This is a group of individuals associated, in fact, although not a legal entity. So it's not, the Combs Abuse LLC. They're just saying that, a lot of people are involved in one thing. That's why it's considered a whole enterprise of actions that are happening. The reason why it's a FRICO, aka RICO, is because of this. The Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. They're basically saying, like, these people all played a role in helping Diddy achieve the crazy freak-offs that he wanted to achieve, right? They all hid the stuff. They cleaned up the hotel rooms after he was done. They hid evidence. They, didn't say anything. They just complied and helped him with whatever he needed. So they're a part of this as well. It's a group of individuals that are going to go down, not just Diddy. So then they break down, what was the purpose of the Combs Enterprise. They said, hey, it's operating business of record labels, recording studios, apparel line, all that stuff. But then they said it was also an enterprise to defend Sean Combs' reputation. Because if they're preventing this information leaking out, obviously his reputation gets hit. So these people were willing to conceal a lot of his crimes to defend his reputation. Then they were saying preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of the Combs Enterprise as well, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, verbal, all that stuff. Then they went on to talk about the Combs Enterprise and what they engaged in. They said they used force, threats of force, coercion, caused victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs. So they literally mention it in the indictment. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, and got off to. They're basically saying he was, pleasuring himself to this stuff, and often electronically recorded. So here's the thing. They're saying this stuff because they got video footage, and they talk about it a little bit later in a video that I'll show. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the associates of members and associates of the Combs Enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical extortion and drug use. This is how crazy these freak-offs were. These individuals would have to do these freak-offs under Diddy watching in the corner, pleasuring himself, and then they would get so exhausted and tired from all the drug use and all the freak-off stuff that they were doing that they would have to get IVs the next day. There was even video footage of Diddy and his mom getting IVs on social media. I'm not saying his mom's involved in this stuff, but that's kind of weird, Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, they mentioned everybody, facilitated freak-offs by, among other things, booking hotel rooms for freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs, resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. What? This is the most insane thing. How is Diddy's lawyers going to defend 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant? What do you say to that? Are you running a baby oil business? Like, what do you say to that? So Diddy's lawyers deserve every penny they're getting to try to defend this guy, because there's no way you can defend that. I just don't know what logic. What I'm imagining in my head is the Fed slipping, going in the raids and just slipping all over the place because there's baby oil everywhere. 1,000 bottles is asinine. This is menace. This is out of this world stuff. Continuing on, Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts. This guy was literally tracking them, dictating the victims' appearances, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. This guy was a menace, man, controlling these people's lives 24/7. Now, how are you going to, even if you were a victim, right, and you're trying to come out and say, hey, I'm a victim of this guy, how would you do that with this guy controlling literally everything? During and separate from freak-offs, Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted participating in freak-offs. Victims believed they could not refuse Combs' demands without risking their financial or job security, or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating records that he made during freak-offs as collateral to ensure the contained obedience and silence of the victim. So he said, listen, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to show people this video footage of you doing this crazy stuff. Now, this implies to me that Cassie, to me, because she spent, I don't know how many years with them. I think 13, 12 years. I could be wrong on that number, but she was with them for a long time. I know over 10 years. She's the one that saw a lot of this stuff. She's the one that probably gathered a lot of evidence. She's the one that dealt with the abuse. I'm sure she's the one that submitted a lot of this information. She's probably the number one person that they're getting information from, that they're going to use to help lock Diddy up forever. Because this sounds like a lot of what Cassie sued Diddy for in the civil lawsuit. Civil and criminal, two different things. Civil, you get your money. Criminal, the person gets locked up. So shout out to Cassie. She's getting her money, and it's looking like Diddy's forever going to be locked up. So she wins on both ends. She finessed him, got the money after dealing with all that shit. Hey, props to her, man. Whatever she got, shout out to her, man. She deserves it. After all that bullshit she dealt with, shout out to her. But this is sounding like a lot of information from Cassie's coming. Members and associates of Combs Enterprise, including Combs security personnel, at times carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims of and witnesses to his abuse. And or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15 with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. Lil Rod, during his lawsuit, did refer to these stuff. So I don't know if they're referring to Lil Rod's lawsuit here, because he did point out that, hey, people are getting shot, pistol whipped, stuff like that, if they try to do anything or, threaten Diddy in any way. Continuing on, it says, members and associates of Combs Enterprise at times witnessed Combs' violence towards the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Combs without intervening. So these people are complying with this stuff. These people are going to get charges as well. They should be shivering in their boots right now. Instead, members and associates of Combs Enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse, among other things, assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations, such as hotels or Combs' residence. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several days at a time, to recover from injuries from Combs inflicted, without being publicly observed. Members and associates of Combs Enterprise who assisted Combs in locating and contacting victims who attempted to flee his abuse. Now, it goes on to say, when employees witnessed the abuse and others threatened, Combs' authority, reputation, Combs and his associates would do acts of violence like kidnapping and arson. Like, this guy would kidnap people and say, this is like straight up out of a movie. This is some real shit. It's insane. It's just ridiculous. Continuing on, they talk more about, how Diddy was bribing people. And then they even got phone calls. They said on phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise, among other things, provided these victims and witnesses with false narratives of events in an effort to conceal Combs's crimes. So basically, they would drug these people up to the point where, they would get sober and they would be like, what happened? Like, did all this happen? And Combs and his associates would be like, nah, man, you're tripping. It did nothing happened like that. Yeah, you had fun and you passed out. They would say stuff like that. So they talk about a lot of stuff that they did illegally. Like one of the ones they highlighted was the drugs that they used, like cocaine, oxycodone, alpromazine. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of these things. Meth, all these type of drugs that they were using. And that's essentially it for the indictment papers. They mentioned arson, obviously setting something on fire, which would be, the Kid Cudi thing of trying to blow his car up with the Mazel Tov that Diddy threw and actually blew his car up.
The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and the large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether.
And that's it for the full indictment, right? Diddy did a bunch of things. He threatened people. He tracked people. He coerced people by giving them financial benefits if they did what he said. He had a lot of people involved in helping him. He did a lot of heinous things. And the evidence, they actually found video and audio footage. Now, the interesting thing about this is who was in there. Is it going to be other people, other celebrities, other high-powered people involved? We're going to talk about how Diddy could potentially use that to help himself in this situation. But let's talk about the days moving forward of him trying to get bail. He wanted to be out on bail to at least experience whatever life he can experience up until he actually gets, called to court for his sentencing and the trial starts. But he got denied it multiple times. The first time Diddy tried to get bail was obviously Tuesday morning, the night after he got arrested, and he offered a lot. $50 million worth of stuff. $50 million, like Chris Tucker says in Rush Hour. Yes, $50 million worth of stuff. And the document came out of what he proposed, of what his lawyers and him proposed to hopefully get bail. And this is what it says. The defense proposes the following bail package. A $50 million bond. B, co-signed by Sean Combs, his mother, his sister, the mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. C, secured by the equity in Mr. Combs' residence located at 2 West Star Island in Miami, Florida. The appraised value of the home is at about $48 million. The home is unencumbered. In anticipation of this bail hearing on August 20th, 2024, Mr. Combs paid off the remaining mortgage of about $18 million so that the home could be used to secure a bond and be free of a mortgage. D secured the equity of Mr. Combs' mother's home located at 450 Alton Road in Miami, Florida. So he's putting up his mom's home, his own home, and saying, hey, this is well over $50 million. C, Mr. Combs' travel will be restricted to the Southern District of Florida and Southern District of New York. So the only places he can go is Florida and New York to attend court, meet with his counsel, and attend medical appointments, which we will address to the court in separate sealed submission, as well as the Eastern District of New York or the District of New Jersey, only to the extent that his travel is to and from New York involves an airport in those districts. F, Mr. Combs' passport was surrendered to his counsel on April 1st, 2024. His counsel advised the prosecutors of this fact in an email dated the same day. Counsel will provide this passport to pretrial services. And then G, the passports of the following family members who have already surrendered their passports to counsel after the raids on Mr. Combs' homes, which is Janice Combs, Chance Combs, Jesse Combs, Delilah Combs, and Love Combs. So he said, listen, my kids' passport, my family member's passport, my house, my mom's house, I won't be able to travel nowhere but Florida and New York. Can I get out on bail, please? Judge said no. Now, today, as of the recording of this video, they offered another package and said, listen, we're trying to get out on bail here. We want Diddy free. What is this next package? Before he offered the second package, though, he did go to court and pleaded not guilty. He was held without bail, and this is what happened. Diddy just pled not guilty to all the charges against him. The Battle Mogul made his initial appearance in federal court Tuesday afternoon in Lower Manhattan, where he entered a not guilty plea. As expected, the more pressing issue for Diddy was whether or not the judge will let him out on bail. Prosecutors are laying out their case for denying Diddy's bail, and they say they're worried he will intimidate witnesses and obstruct the case if he's released on bond. What's more, the feds say the witnesses they've interviewed have universally expressed fear, and the prosecutors claim Diddy called his former artist, Kalina Harper, 54 times the day before she made a statement about a recent lawsuit they were named in. 54 times calling her. That's the second member of Diddy Dirty Money, which is the female that doesn't accuse Diddy of anything. The other one did. That's the one that she ended up suing him. Prosecutors also say Diddy's got the money and the means to be a flight risk, and the feds say he had what appear to be narcotics in his hotel room when he was arrested. The feds say a pink powder that tested positive for ecstasy was found in Diddy's hotel room, as well as other drugs. Diddy's attorney is taking on the narrative that the rap mogul isn't a brute and a bully, seemingly hinting that there's more to the story regarding the 2016 hotel hallway incident involving Combs and then his then girlfriend Cassie. Diddy's camp argued victim one was looking through his phone and discovered he had more than one girlfriend, hitting the rapper in the head with a cell phone and taking off his clothes, which explains why he was in the hallway in a towel and the footage that surfaced back in May. His lawyer claims Diddy and the unnamed victim, assumed to be Cassie, was very much in love until the woman in question cheated for years with the trainer the A-lister provided for her. We've reached out to Cassie's reps for a comment. Cassie notably married physical trainer Alex Fine in 2019. They share 2 children together. Diddy's lawyer claims his client is not a perfect person, though found himself in toxic relationship, but claims they were mutual. However, earlier in court, it was suggested that Diddy wrote a large check to an ex for 10 years. It's unclear who received the payment and for what reason. So Diddy's lawyers, when they went to court to plead for his bail, said that basically this is an incident obviously referring Cassie because it's the hotel video incident. It's clear as day it's Cassie. They just can't say her name in court for whatever reasons, legally, blah, 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 right? Diddy's lawyer is saying, hey, Diddy caught Cassie cheating on him. So he's basically doing the excuse of, hey, it was a in the moment thing. He was mad in the moment and did this out of fiery rage, right? He just got mad that she cheated on him. Boom. Decided to abuse her and blah, 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 blah. Which is still not a valid reason to put your hands on somebody. Even if somebody cheats on you, just move on, move forward. It is what it is, man. You're Diddy. You can get a million Cassies that look like her, literally. Regardless, that's their defense. That's what they went through and saying, hey, he's not this violent person that, it's going to be very hard to defend against that video footage, no matter which way you twist it, right? Now, in order to get even Diddy locked up, they had to present this evidence in front of a grand jury of 12 people. The feds had to present all their evidence in front of these 12 individuals and said, do we have enough to arrest this guy? Would you guys assume this guy is guilty based off this evidence? They all said yes, and that's why he got arrested. So it's going to be very hard to downplay that video. And if there's other video footage, which the feds are saying, it's over. It's hard to downplay video evidence. And today, period, in any court, in today's time, obviously there's AI altercation, but this stuff happened way before AI. And they raided his house and found this stuff. So from there, Diddy's lawyer, Mark Angeles, spoke out to the courthouse after Diddy was denied bail. And Angeles said they will continue to fight to get Diddy out of jail. Now, at the second bail hearing, they promised that Diddy would basically go nowhere and that he would have no female visitors and even no internet. They basically said they're going to have 24/7 surveillance video footage on him. They're going to keep track of what he does every single second. No females, none of that. So let's go over it. Diddy has taken another swing at getting out on bail, and he's upping his offer to the court, declaring that he will forego contact with almost all women while he's out. In documents obtained by TMZ, Diddy's legal team says if he's released on bail, the security company that keeps a log of all visitors to his Miami Beach home will hand over those logs to the government nightly in order to be fully transparent about who Diddy is contacting. They also say Diddy will limit all visitors to family, property caretakers, and friends who are not co-conspirators in the federal indictment. Specifically, they say Diddy will restrict female visitors, with the only exceptions being family members or mothers of his children. Clearly, Diddy and his attorneys are attempting to address the court's concern that he will contact or intimidate witnesses. Further, Diddy also states in the docs he will have no contact with known grand jury witnesses, and he's also agreeing to weekly drug testing. Diddy's financial offer remains the same in the new bail package. $50 million secured by his Miami mansion and his mother's home. Federal prosecutors have fired back, responding in court documents that claim Diddy is just too dangerous to be out walking the streets. No matter what the rap mogul's lawyers say or do, as the prosecutors point out, Diddy reportedly obstructed justice during the investigation, not to mention is still an alleged flight risk. They claim Diddy is capable of coercing witnesses to comply with his demands. They also voice concerns that Diddy could consume drugs or throw his so-called freak-offs if out on bail, despite the rapper's promise he won't have any female visitors. They're basically saying this guy's an addict, man. He's going to keep doing the same things and just dip. Well, the judge said, nah, you're not out of here, bro. It's not happening. This is what they said. Diddy's fight to get out of jail has stopped in its tracks because after arriving at court today to appeal a judge ruling he shouldn't be released on bail, he's headed back to the detention center. The rap mogul arrived at a federal courthouse in New York City Wednesday where his sons, Christian and Justin, came out to support their dad. Though untimely, the judge in the case decided not to grant Diddy bail. U.S. District Judge Andrew Carter, after hearing arguments from the lawyers, said he was turning down the request because the government has proven the defendant is a danger. The bail package is insufficient enough, even on a risk of flight. Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson mentioned the freak-offs sex parties Diddy would allegedly host. She claimed he filmed people having sex with male escorts, particularly to use as blackmail. That's insane. Yeah, then Diddy's lawyers said he's hoping to get Diddy's case to trial sooner rather than later to minimize the amount of times he'll have to spend behind bars. He also called out the rapper's prison conditions as inhumane, though the lawyer said Diddy is ready and focused ahead of trial. This is going to be crazy. This is going to be an insane trial. If that video footage is out there and they play it in court, it's going to be insane. He mentions his poor conditions while being locked up. So he is locked up at the MDC Brooklyn. This place is a terrible place to be locked up. And a former MDC Brooklyn warden claims that Diddy's life could potentially be in danger because the people would want to do something to him just to get praise for it and get notoriety off it. A lot of people are doing life. They could care less. Like, hey, add another life sentence to me, doesn't matter. They said Diddy should watch his back in prison because a former warden at the facility he's in says there are a whole lot of inmates who would see killing him as a badge of honor. Yeah, it's going to get tricky. Now let's talk about what is Diddy facing in terms of time and what can he do to potentially minimize those things moving forward. What happens moving forward? Here's the thing. The prosecutors have an insane amount of witnesses and people willing to step up to talk about what they've experienced with Diddy. Now, I'm sure Diddy's defense has potentially the same thing. I know celebrities do not want to get close to this. A lot of people are not even, celebrities aren't even talking about this. The main one that's attacked Diddy consistently is 50 Cent. But other than that, most celebrities have not touched it. They don't want anything to do with it. It is reported that there are dozens upon dozens of witnesses that will be called in trial. Think about that. Dozens. So a dozen is 12. Dozens, we're talking about 24, 36, 48. Who knows the amount of witnesses that the prosecutors have and what kind of evidence they have. Diddy also has, from the prosecutors, 300 grand jury subpoenas. Now, what is this? A grand jury subpoena is a legal document issued by a grand jury, which is a group of citizens tasked with investigating potential criminal activity. These subpoenas are used to gather evidence or testimony that will assist in their investigations. The grand jury subpoenas are typically issued in secret, and recipients are legally obligated to comply. Non-compliance can result in contempt of court charges. That is, they have 300 of these grand jury subpoenas. These prosecutors, the feds, they're not playing games. This is why when people are asking, why did it take so long from 2008, 2009, they're investigating Diddy. I think they were trying to gather evidence and they were struggling for quite some time, right? Then all of a sudden, Cassie sets off this lawsuit, a bunch of lawsuits come, and all it does is help them compile all their information a lot quicker. And then they do the raids, and here we are. Now, what is Diddy facing? Diddy is facing a minimum of 15 years in prison. He turns 55 this year in 2024 in November. That means at minimum, he gets out at the age of 70 years old if he makes it that old. At that point, there's really not much life to live. Other than that, I mean, he is a multimillionaire still, so he'll have some life to live. But that's if he gets minimum. And it's not looking like that. I think he could potentially get life in prison. Now, what is the ways that he could potentially get out of this? What could help him? Now, if the prosecutors decide to take a plea deal, that's on them if they decide to do it. What could he do? He could throw other celebrities under the bus, use them as blackmail. Like he said, he recorded those video footage to use as blackmail to the victims. So maybe there might be high-profile people in those videos and that he could say, hey, I'll help you take down these other individuals as well, as long as you reduce my sentence. Maybe he gets 15 years, maybe only 10. I doubt it. I doubt this is a route that could happen, but he, could throw a lot of people in Hollywood that attended those parties under the bus with him. That's one way that Diddy can kind of snake his way out of the situation. The best possible, situation is him getting his time reduced. And the second is just simply unaliving himself, being done with it, finding a way to, unalive himself and just be done. It's finished. It's over. You've had your run in life. It's over. But other than that, I see no way he gets out of this. The amount of evidence they have, the amount of people that are willing to testify against him, the amount of just sheer rumors that have speculated this guy. I mean, I did a whole documentary talking about if Diddy actually put a hit out on Tupac of $1 million. Check it out. It's called Diddy, the $1 million hit on Tupac's life. I'll put a link in the description. Shameless plug. But there's so many stories, so many things that I really don't see how Diddy can get out of this situation. I will keep you guys posted and seeing if there's any, new information that comes out. But 300 grand jury subpoenas is astronomical. Like that is just, and dozens upon dozens of witnesses. Video footage, cassette tapes, all this stuff. How do you explain 1,000 bottles of baby oil? That's insane. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. I don't know, moving forward, we're going to see what happens. It's going to be insane. We're going to get a lot of information coming out of this. But yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward.
That's it for today's video. If you guys want to support this channel further, you can do so at patreon.com/diverse mentality. For just $3 a month, you can get my videos uncut and raw the way I intended them to be, but couldn't because of YouTube. Plus, you also get access to our Discord community, where we have a great community talking about hip hop and various other things. It's very dope. So only $3 a month. I'd really appreciate the support. Also follow us on social media at QuakeGW and at Diverse Mentality. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.